Hi everyone, this is Katie from the Career Services office. Today's video will include the top 5 tips for the teacher job search. For many of you who have just graduated or are starting to look for opportunities in education and teaching, you might be a little concerned over the current economy and the effects of COVID-19. But we're here to give you some specific tips that can help you stay on track for your job search. Before we dive into those tips, I do want to highlight some specific online resources that we have on the Career Services website. In particular, we have a page called Education Resources, which includes a great number of different guides on everything from resumes to cover letters to specific interview strategies as well. The link is there for you to check that out. And we also have our Job Search for Educators page. This page is much more detailed in terms of information for the job search. So job search market data for teaching and education fields. There's a checklist on how to prepare and go through your job search. There's also a list of different job search engines specific to teaching and education. And lastly, there's a list of alternative teaching opportunities that you might consider if you're having a hard time finding a job. So definitely check out those links off of our website. And now let's move on to the specific top 5 tips. So as I mentioned, I know that you are probably a little concerned about your job search, not really sure what it's going to look like, what type of opportunities will be out there, are there any jobs? But my first tip is to be patient. I know that's easier said than done, but from what we're hearing from employers, a lot of them are still figuring it out themselves. So right here on the screen, we have what's the kind of typical or standard hiring timeline for most public schools. And usually it looks like this. In March, schools will start to anticipate what openings they have based on their budgets. Moving into April or so, they might actually start posting and hiring for different opportunities through the interview process. But typically, most schools are looking at a May through August timeline of actually interviewing candidates and putting out job offers. Now, again, that's a standard timeline. So in today's timeline, with a down economy and the unknowns of what's going to happen for the fall school year, a lot of districts are still trying to figure out their budgets. I did want to let you know some positive news. Career Services just conducted a recent survey, and we're still actually getting results. But out of a quick survey of about 31 different partner districts in the region, 19 of them said that they plan to hire at a normal rate compared to previous years. So that's actually 61% of districts that are saying that their hiring hasn't changed much. That's a great sign, right? And beyond those 61%, there are about 5 schools that said that they plan to have decreased hiring, but still they plan on hiring. And then the remaining 7 or so are a mix of schools that are just still not sure about what their budgets look like, or they might actually be laying off or furloughing. But again, the majority is certainly still hiring, so that's good. As districts learn more about their budgets and what that's going to look like, hiring will definitely continue through the start of the school year in September. So, don't worry quite yet if you don't have a job and it's only July. Opportunities will continue to be posted throughout the summer leading up to the fall. So number 2, if you haven't already, you need to learn SCHOOLSPRING. You want to become a SCHOOLSPRING expert. SCHOOLSPRING is the website that the majority of school districts are using to post positions. And so as a job seeker, you can create an account and a profile, which allows you to manage all of your different applications. And so with that being said, on your SCHOOLSPRING profile, you want to make sure that you are filling it out as completely as possible. And this is essential because the resume that becomes part of your profile is really what the employers will look at when they receive and review your application. So you want that to look perfect. A couple things to think about: really perfect your resume content. You can copy and paste what you have on your traditional resume and put it into the appropriate text boxes or sections on your SCHOOLSPRING profile. There's also an option for you to include a cover letter. And what's critical here is that you want to write a customized cover letter for each job that you plan to apply to. You can write that cover letter in a Word document, and then you can copy and paste it into the cover letter section in your profile. And every time you go to apply to a particular job, you'll just copy and paste that new one in for that opportunity and save it. That's kind of how that works. And the great thing about SCHOOLSPRING is that within each section, you can actually prioritize the order of your experiences. Just so, for example, if you're looking at your experience section with all your jobs, you can pick and choose which ones are most related and move them up. So it's not necessarily a chronological list. You can decide which ones you want to highlight higher up. SchoolSpring also allows you to upload your transcripts from your schools in the education section, and you also can include a variety of other things that you've done under the additional information category. This would be a great section for you to include things that will boost your application, such as volunteer, community service, maybe leadership roles. You can also include things like awards or honors in there too. So that's a great way to showcase additional things beyond, say, your student teaching. You also want to make sure you fill out that certifications and endorsements section fully. This is important because employers will actually use this as a filter when they're searching for candidates. So make sure that's all set. And of course, you can include your letters of recommendation on your profile. You can ask your references to submit them online themselves, or you can upload them as an attachment under that section. There's a lot of different components to SchoolSpring, and it's pretty easy to navigate in terms of the search. So just make sure you're comfortable using it. And of course, there are a variety of other job search engines out there. As I mentioned earlier, you can access those off of our website on the Job Search for Educators page. Tip number 3, make sure that you are showcasing your digital skills. This is important, especially right now in what we're going through. It's very possible that many of you were thrust into an online and remote learning experience in the middle of your student teaching. And because of that, chances are you had to learn and become more skilled in a variety of different things, like different software, computer skills, right? Many of you probably had to learn Google Meet, or you had to learn how to use Zoom in an effective way for the classroom. Make sure those skills are listed on your resume and mentioned in your cover letter. You probably also learned how to adapt and be much more flexible with different remote learning strategies. So figuring out how do we actually get these children to learn in a different context. Make sure that that's incorporated into your cover letter. And lastly, just highlight your innovation and creative skills. Again, you probably had to switch gears very quickly and figure out ways to do things in a totally different environment. So make sure you're highlighting these things as part of your application. Number 4, networking. So again, because things are so remote right now, there's not a lot of opportunities to connect in person, but that doesn't mean that networking can't happen. It's critical to use online options for networking, and LinkedIn is really the best place to go. Over the past several years, LinkedIn has really become the professional site for educators in a variety of ways for networking. As a general tool, you can create a profile on LinkedIn, and you can go through there and actually incorporate all of your experiences, student teaching, volunteer, community service, jobs, certifications, skills. You can even include recommendations on your profile. Another thing that's great is you can upload or attach samples of your work. So if you have lesson plans or different images that you want to incorporate into your profile from the classroom, you can put those right on your profile. Beyond having a profile, which really looks like your online resume, there are a lot of different groups that you can join on LinkedIn. You can search for education and teaching specific groups to join, maybe ones that deal with technology in the classroom or whatever it might be. And then beyond that, you want to use LinkedIn specifically to search for people to network with. There are millions of people on LinkedIn, but just in terms of BSU alumni alone, there are over 42,000 BSU alums on LinkedIn. So your goal is to search for and find these alumni and set up what we call informational interviews. Within that, you would be able to ask these alums about their career paths, how they got into their current job, what do they love about teaching, what are some of the challenges they're experiencing. And through this process, you're going to learn some really good insight. Of course, you want to try to target alumni or people that work in the districts that you are interested in working in, or maybe in the different types of roles you're interested in, such as a special educator, or maybe somebody who's more in a particular content area like math or science. So you can find these people on LinkedIn very easily through the BSU alumni page. Make sure you check that out, and we also have some great videos specifically on how to use LinkedIn for your networking purposes. Last but not least, number 5, be flexible. Again, we're not quite sure what to expect with the upcoming school year, and that shows in the variety of different opportunities that are out there. Some might be perfectly situated in the type of position you want. Some might be not so much. So what you want to think about is, what is your ideal position? Most likely a lead classroom teacher. But what are some other opportunities that you might consider beyond that? So you want to think about being flexible in two areas, the types of positions and then also the types of organizations you're seeking. In terms of that lead classroom teacher, of course, you can consider those standard public school districts that are so great. But beyond that, you might want to think about things like your private schools that are in the area, maybe some religiously affiliated schools, could even consider charter schools. 766 approved schools are those that are focused on special education needs. You could look into opportunities there. There's also a variety of different state agencies that actually do hire teachers to work for them. So for example, the Department of Children and Families or Department of Youth Services may actually hire teachers who travel to different locations to do education work. It's a kind of different environment, but still teaching. You could also consider teaching in something like a Department of Defense school, where you work on a base and actually teach children of military families. You could look into different programs like the Peace Corps or other types of AmeriCorps programs that are still in that realm. Maybe you're teaching in an urban environment or a low-income neighborhood. There are so many different options for education and teaching. And lastly, there's also the option of just looking at a nonprofit organization that focuses on teaching and education. These are all kind of different environments that would still allow you to gain teaching and education skills that you can take forward with you. So perhaps when more opportunities open up in the next year or so, you might have some extra experience on your resume to sell for that lead classroom teacher in the perfect school district that you were hoping for. But again, you also want to look at different teacher positions. In particular, you could look at long-term substitute openings. You could look at paraprofessional positions, substitute teacher positions, or even assistant teacher openings. These are all great ways just to get your foot in the door at a district. And that way, the teachers and the administrators see you working in that building. They get to know you. They get to know your great work ethic. And they're much more likely to consider you when a full-time position does open up in a classroom. This is one of the top things that we hear all the time from our employer partners. They say you have to start somewhere. So again, if you're struggling to get that lead classroom teacher opening, don't be shy to apply for, interview, and maybe even accept an offer in a different role, like a long-term sub or a para position. These are also going to help you in a variety of other ways in expanding your thinking. You do need to be flexible in terms of your geographic reach. You want to expand your search. Many students and alumni are very focused on, I only want to work within a 15-mile radius. That may not be possible right now. So if you can expand your geographic location search, it's going to help you a ton. You also want to consider all different types of schools. Again, within that public region, it could be public, private, charter, or again, some of these alternative teaching. All of these ways of expanding yourself, being flexible and adaptable, will help you with your search and becoming employed as a teacher and as an educator. So with that being said, what are your next steps? Certainly, we would love to help you. We encourage you to give us a call to schedule a job search appointment. And in that appointment, we can go over your resume, perhaps look at your cover letter, and really dive into the job search strategies. These top 5 tips are some of the big things that you can do right now just to help with your search, but there's all those little details that we can assist you on through a one-on-one appointment as well. Number 2, we encourage you to claim your Handshake account. If you have not already, Handshake is our online career management platform where there are jobs and internship postings and a variety of ways for you to research employers, find out about career events, information sessions, and upcoming things that are going on through BSU. All students have an account. You just need to log in with your BSU username and email. And once you get in there, you can really access all of the resources that we've talked about today as well. So give us a call at 508-531-1328. We'd be happy to help you and work with you through a one-on-one appointment.